Admiral Kate Morrison walked through the long hallway toward the council chambers. Her black boots made soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. She had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today, the aliens would try to end everything humans had built among the stars. The hallway was huge and made of some kind of glowing crystal that the aliens had grown instead of built. Strange lights moved through the walls like living things. Kate had stopped being amazed by alien technology years ago. She had bigger things to worry about. Behind her walked Captain Ryan Burke and Dr. Lisa Chen. Ryan was young and eager, the kind of officer who believed that every problem could be solved. With enough firepower, Lisa was older and wiser, a scientist who understood that the universe was more complicated than most people realized. Admiral Ryan whispered as they walked, "The fleet is ready. We have ships in position around 12 systems. The new weapons are tested and working. We could make them think twice about threatening us." Kate did not turn around. "Captain, sometimes the best weapon is the one you never have to use." Lisa said nothing, but Kate knew what the scientist was thinking. Lisa had spent 30 years studying alien biology and psychology. She understood better than anyone how the different species of the galaxy thought and acted. She knew this day would come. The hallway opened into the council chambers, and Kate felt her breath catch in her throat despite herself. The room was enormous, big enough to hold a small city. The ceiling stretched up so high, it disappeared into darkness. Hundreds of different alien species sat in rows that curved around the center of the room like a giant bowl. Kate had seen Zephyrians before, tall and thin, like living crystal with light dancing inside their transparent bodies. The Cronins looked like walking rocks, with glowing eyes deep in their stone heads. The Aquarians moved in tanks of water, their tentacles waving as they spoke in sounds that only their machines could translate into words. Other species could understand, but it was the hegemony representatives that made Kate's jaw tighten. They looked like giant insects, with too many arms and eyes that reflected light like black mirrors. They had been the dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years, and they did not like it when younger species grew too powerful too quickly. Chancellor Vexstar stood at the center of the chamber. He was the leader of the hegemony and one of the most feared beings in the galaxy. His mandibles clicked as he spoke, and his translator turned the sounds into cold, precise words. "Admiral Morrison," the Chancellor said, "you represent a species that has become too dangerous to be allowed to continue unchecked." Kate walked to the center of the chamber where a small platform waited for her. Ryan and Lisa took positions behind her, but she felt very alone standing before so many alien eyes. The chamber was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. "Chancellor," Kate replied, "humanity has always followed galactic law. We have never attacked another species. We have never taken what did not belong to us. You have done something worse," Vexstar said. His mandibles clicked faster now, a sign that he was becoming agitated. "You have grown too quickly. You have developed technologies that threaten the balance of power that has kept peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Kate knew what he meant. In the 50 years since humans had developed faster than light travel, they had spread across the galaxy like a virus. Where other species took centuries to terraform a dead world into something livable, humans could do it in decades. Where other species were careful and slow in their expansion, humans built new colonies almost every year. The terraforming technology was the key to everything. Human scientists had discovered how to change the atmosphere of a planet in months. Instead of millennia, they could create perfect conditions for any kind of life. They had turned dead rocks into garden worlds that made the ancient homeworlds of the galaxy look like deserts. "The human expansion must stop," Chancellor Vexstar continued. "You will surrender all terraforming technology to the Council. We'll submit to genetic modification oversight to ensure your species develops at an acceptable rate. You will relocate to designated worlds where your activities can be properly monitored." A murmur went through the chamber. Even for the Council, these demands were extreme. Kate heard gasps from some of the more moderate species. The Zephyrians, who had always been friendly to humans, looked uncomfortable in their crystal bodies. Dr. Lisa Chen had prepared Kate for this moment. Lisa had studied every species in the council, learned their histories, their fears, their weaknesses. She had explained to Kate that the aliens were not evil, just afraid. They had built a galaxy based on slow, careful progress. Humans represented chaos and unpredictability. How long do we have to consider these terms? Kate asked. Chancellor Vextar's black eyes glittered. 72 standard hours. After that time, if humanity has not agreed to these conditions, the Council will take whatever steps are necessary to ensure galactic stability. The threat was clear. If humans did not surrender voluntarily, the combined fleets of 47 species would make them surrender by force. It would be the largest war in galactic history. Humanity would be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Captain Ryan Burke shifted behind Kate. She could feel his tension like heat from a fire. He wanted to fight, believed that humans could win. Through superior technology and courage, he was young enough to think that being right was the same as being strong, but Kate had learned different lessons in her long career. She had fought pirates in the outer systems and rebels on the colony worlds. She had seen what happened when good people made bad choices because they were afraid or angry or proud. "We understand your terms," Kate said simply. The words echoed through the vast chamber. Kate could hear her own voice bouncing off the crystal walls and coming back to her, changed, as if the building itself was judging what she had said. Chancellor Vextar's mandibles stopped clicking. He had expected arguments, demands for more time, threats of retaliation. He had not expected simple acceptance. "You will comply?" he asked. "We will need time to coordinate the withdrawal," Kate said.
"All moving."
Billions of people and shutting down. Hundreds of colonies will take months. But yes, we will comply with the Council's demands. Behind her, Kate heard Ryan take a sharp breath. She knew what he was thinking. Humanity had spent decades building the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. Their scientists had developed weapons and defenses that no alien species could match. Their colonies were defended by systems that could stop any attack, and Kate was throwing it all away without even trying to fight. The council session continued for another hour, working out details of the human withdrawal, which colonies would be evacuated first, which technologies would be transferred to alien control, which worlds would be suitable for human resettlement. Kate answered every question calmly and completely, as if she was discussing a routine trade agreement instead of the end of human expansion. When the session finally ended, Kate gathered her datapad and walked toward the exit. Ryan and Lisa followed her in silence, their faces showing confusion and disappointment. They had come here expecting to fight for humanity's future. Instead, they were planning humanity's retreat. The corridor outside the chamber was almost empty. Most of the alien delegates were still inside, probably celebrating their victory over the troublesome humans. Kate walked slowly, her mind already working on the thousands of details that would need to be arranged. Admiral Ryan said when they were alone, "What about Operation Lazarus? What about the new weapons? What about the colonies we swore to protect?" Kate stopped at a viewing port that looked out over the Council's home system. Ships from dozens of different species moved between the planets like glowing insects. The system had been the center of galactic civilization for thousands of years, a symbol of stability and order. "Captain Burke," Kate said quietly, "sometimes the best way to win a war is to make your enemy think they have already won." Ryan stared at her, trying to understand what she meant. Lisa Chen nodded slowly, a small smile appearing on her face. The scientist had spent enough time with Kate to know that the Admiral never did anything without a very good reason. Kate looked out at the alien ships and thought about the future. The galaxy thought it had just won the greatest victory in its history. They thought they had finally contained the human threat. They had no idea that the real war was just beginning. 6 weeks after the council meeting, Dr. Lisa Chen stood in her laboratory on the research station, orbiting Kepler 44b. Through the large window, she could see the planet below, green and blue and beautiful. She had spent 15 years of her life making that world perfect for human settlement. Now she was packing everything up to leave it behind. Her research partner, Quilleneth, watched her work with confusion written across his crystal face. The Zephyrian scientist had worked with Lisa for almost a decade. They had published papers together, shared discoveries, and become something close to friends, despite being different species. I do not understand, Quilleneth said in his musical voice. Your people built wonderful things here. The atmospheric processors work perfectly. The soil treatment systems produce crops better than anything we have seen. Why abandon all of this? Lisa carefully sealed another data core and placed it in the transport container. The core contained 30 years of genetic research, environmental data, and terraforming protocols. To Quilleneth, it looked like she was just preserving her scientific work. He could not see the hidden layers of information buried deep in the data, information that would be very important in the months to come. Because fighting would mean destruction, Lisa said, not looking up from her work. This way, everyone gets to live. Quilleneth tilted his head, a gesture that meant confusion in Zephyrian body language. But your species is so advanced, your weapons, your ships, your technology. Surely you could resist the Council's demands. Lisa smiled sadly as she sealed the final data core. Inside that small device was enough information to terraform 100 worlds, plus detailed specifications for technologies that no alien species had ever imagined. The Council thought they were getting humanity's terraforming secrets. They had no idea what they were really getting. Violence is not always the answer, my friend, Lisa said. Sometimes the smart thing to do is step back and let others think they have one. On Earth, Colonel Jake Martinez supervised the decommissioning of the Luna City military installation. The base had been humanity's primary defense center for the inner solar system. Now, hegemony inspectors walked through every corridor, documenting every piece of equipment before it was either destroyed or handed over to alien control. The inspectors were thorough, but not very creative. They saw exactly what they expected. To see defeated humans sadly giving up their weapons and equipment. They did not notice the microscopic quantum transmitters being embedded in random components as the equipment was processed. They did not see the tiny modifications being made to computer systems and communication devices. This is painful to watch, said Lieutenant Amy Foster as she helped pack up the command center. My grandfather helped build this place. He would be sick to see aliens walking through it like they own it. Jake kept his voice low as he worked. Your grandfather was a smart man, Amy. He taught me that sometimes you have to lose a battle to win a war. Amy looked confused, but Jake could not explain more with the alien inspectors so close. The truth was that every piece of equipment being handed over to the aliens had been carefully modified. Hidden transmitters, backdoor access codes, and remote control systems had been built into everything. The aliens thought they were taking control of human technology. In reality, they were taking humanity's Trojan horses into their own systems. The human evacuation proceeded with incredible efficiency. Colony ships departed from Earth every few hours, carrying not just civilians, but entire manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and cultural archives. The aliens watched in amazement as humans dismantled their civilization piece by piece and loaded it onto ships. What the aliens did not understand was why a defeated people would need so much industrial equipment. Why would refugees require massive factories and research centers? The answer was simple, but the aliens were too focused on their victory to ask the right questions. From the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon, Captain Ben Williams watched the last human ships leave the Sol system. Behind them, hegemony vessels moved into position around Earth and the other human worlds, ready to claim everything humanity was leaving behind. All ships report ready for jump to hyperspace, said Navigator Claire Adams from her station. Course is laid in for the void reaches. The void reaches were exactly what they sounded like. Empty space between the spiral arms of the galaxy. No established species had ever bothered to explore that region because there was nothing there worth having. No habitable planets, no valuable resources, no strategic locations. It was the perfect place for a defeated species to go and be forgotten. Execute the jump, Ben ordered, as the stars shifted to the familiar blue-white streaks of hyperspace. Ben activated a coded transmission that reached every ship in the human fleet. The message was short and simple. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. Throughout the galaxy, other humans were also leaving their homes. On the agricultural world of Haven, farmer Mark Johnson loaded his family and equipment onto a transport ship. He had spent 20 years turning the planet's soil into the most productive farmland in the galaxy. Now alien colonists would get the benefit of his work. Daddy asked his 8-year-old daughter Emma, "Why do we have to leave?" "I like it here." Mark picked up his daughter and carried her to the ship's viewing port. Outside, he could see the fields he had planted, the irrigation systems he had built, the farmhouse where Emma had been born. "Sometimes, sweetheart, you have to leave home so you can come back to it later," he said. Emma did not understand, but she trusted her father. Like most human children, she had grown up hearing stories about the early colonists who had left Earth to build new worlds among the stars. Now she was part of a new story, though she was too young to understand what it meant. On the mining world of Titan's Rest, engineer Carol Wright supervised the shutdown of the massive extraction facilities that had pulled rare metals from the planet's core. Cronin Empire would take control of the mines, but they would find that operating human equipment was more complicated than they expected. "The alien inspectors think they understand our systems," Carol told her assistant Peter Davis, as they walked through the processing plant one last time. "They have no idea how many hidden subroutines are built into everything we made." Peter nodded as he uploaded the final shutdown codes. Hidden in those codes were backdoor access protocols that would allow humans to monitor and control the mining equipment remotely. The Cronins would be able to operate the mines, but they would never really own them. The pattern repeated across hundreds of worlds. Humans packed up their lives and left behind infrastructure that alien species quickly claimed. Terraforming stations, industrial complexes, research facilities, and communication networks all fell into alien hands. The conquered territories were redistributed among the Council species according to their contributions to the collective victory over humanity. On the ocean world of Poseidon, Aquarians took control of the vast underwater cities that humans had built. The tentacled aliens were amazed by the engineering that had made it possible for air breathing to live comfortably beneath the waves. They did not notice the subtle modifications in the life support systems that would make the cities dependent on periodic maintenance that only humans knew how to perform. The Zephyrians claimed the crystal cities on the world of Prism. Human architects had learned to grow buildings from living crystal that responded to the inhabitants' emotions. The beautiful structures continued to function perfectly, but hidden in their crystalline matrix were quantum resonance patterns that could be activated remotely as the weeks passed. The galaxy celebrated its victory over the troublesome humans. The Council had achieved its goal of stopping human expansion without the massive war that everyone had feared. The alien species began to settle into their new territories, marveling at the advanced technology and infrastructure that humans left behind. But in the empty space between the galaxy's spiral arms, the human fleet was not sitting idle. In the void reaches, where no alien sensors could detect them, a massive construction project was underway. Asteroid mining operations that made no sound, shipyards that produced no energy signatures, and research facilities that existed only in the shadows between stars. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the hidden command Ship Defiance, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Every piece of human technology in alien hands was reporting back through the quantum transmitter network. Every terraforming station, every mining facility, every communication relay was now part of a vast surveillance system that gave humanity real-time information about everything happening in the galaxy. "Admiral," reported Commander Alex Thompson from the intelligence station, "all monitoring systems are operational. We have complete surveillance coverage of 47 alien civilizations. They have integrated our technology so thoroughly into their infrastructure that they cannot operate without it." Kate nodded as she studied the holographic displays showing the current status of human technology throughout the galaxy. In 18 months of exile, the aliens had become completely dependent on systems that humanity could monitor and control. "Excellent," Kate said. "How is Project Lazarus progressing?" 18 months after the human exodus, the galaxy had never been more peaceful. Chancellor Vextar stood on the observation deck of his private ship, looking out at the sprawling cities of New Terra, formerly one of humanity's most successful colony worlds. Where once human settlements had dotted the landscape, now gleaming hegemony structures rose toward the sky. The transformation had been remarkable. Human terraforming technology had been reverse-engineered and mass-produced, allowing species that had struggled for millennia to expand beyond their home systems to suddenly colonize dozens of new worlds. The careful balance of power that had defined galactic politics for thousands of years had been replaced by an era of abundance and growth. The quarterly reports show record productivity across all former human territories, reported Sub-Chancellor Kexmore, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Agricultural output is up 300% on the Zephyrian worlds. Mining operations in Cronin space have exceeded all projections. Even the Aquarians have successfully established 12 new ocean colonies. Backstar nodded, but something nagged at the back of his mind. Transition had been too smooth, too perfect. Humans were known for their stubbornness and ingenuity. It seemed strange that they would simply disappear into the void without leaving behind any surprises or complications. "Any word from our deep space monitoring stations?" Vexstar asked. "Any sign of human activity in the outer regions?" "Nothing, Chancellor. Our sensors have detected no human ships, no energy signatures, no communication signals. It is as if they simply vanished from the galaxy entirely." On the agricultural world of Harvest Prime, Zephyrian farmer Rylaneth tended to the vast grain fields that human colonists had established decades earlier, the crystal being moved gracefully between the rows of plants, his transparent body reflecting the light of the system's twin suns. The crops were growing magnificently, better than anything his people had ever managed on their homeworld. But lately, Rylaneth had noticed small problems with the atmospheric processors that maintained the delicate balance of gases necessary for both Zephyrian physiology and optimal plant growth. Nothing catastrophic, just minor fluctuations that reduced efficiency by a few percentage points. The technicians assured him it was normal wear and tear, but something felt wrong. The atmospheric readings were inconsistent in ways that made no sense. Sometimes the processors would run perfectly for days, then suddenly develop small malfunctions that fixed themselves before anyone could properly diagnose them. It was as if someone was testing the systems, learning how they worked by making tiny adjustments and watching the results. Similar problems were being reported across dozens of worlds. On the mining planet Heart, Cronin supervisor Thrakal watched his extraction equipment slow down for no apparent reason. The massive boring machines that had worked flawlessly for months were now operating at only 80% capacity. His engineering teams could find nothing wrong with the machinery, but the reduced output was creating supply shortages throughout the Cronin Empire. "The human-built equipment is experiencing cascade feedback errors," reported Chief Engineer Mordok, his stone face showing frustration. "The diagnostic systems show all green lights, but the actual performance keeps dropping." Thrakal studied the production reports with growing concern. The reduced mining output was not enough to cause a crisis, but it was certainly enough to create problems. Shipyards were running short of rare metals, manufacturing facilities were having to reduce their schedules, and expansion projects were being delayed. "Can we fix it?" Thrakal asked. "We are trying, Supervisor, but the human technology is more complex than we initially understood. The systems are integrated in ways that our engineers did not expect. When we try to modify one component, it affects a dozen others in unpredictable ways." The pattern was repeating throughout the galaxy. Human-built terraforming systems, mining equipment, manufacturing facilities, and communication networks were all experiencing similar problems. It's not failures exactly, but reductions in efficiency that kept galactic civilization operating at a level just below its potential. Dr. Yexa, the hegemony's chief technology analyst, had been studying these anomalies for weeks. His laboratory was filled with disassembled human equipment, holographic displays showing system architectures, and data cores containing terabytes of diagnostic information. The more he learned about human technology, the more concerned he became. "Efficiency reductions are not random," he reported to Chancellor Vexstar during their weekly briefing. "They follow specific patterns that suggest intentional control rather than mechanical failure." Vexstar's black eyes glittered with suspicion. "Explain." "The systems are designed with multiple layers of redundancy and self-repaired capability. They should not be experiencing these kinds of problems unless someone is deliberately causing them. Furthermore, the reductions in output are carefully calculated to maintain current population levels without supporting further expansion. You think the humans are somehow controlling their old equipment? I think we need to examine that possibility very seriously, Chancellor. The breakthrough came when junior analyst Trilax was conducting a routine inspection of a communication relay on the border world of Epsilon Station, using a quantum scanner that had been developed specifically for detecting hidden technology. Trilax discovered something that made his green blood run cold, embedded deep within the relay's quantum processing core was a microscopic transmitter, unlike anything in the Galactic technology database. The device was so small and so well integrated that it appeared to be a natural part of the relay's architecture. But its quantum signature was distinctly human. Trilax immediately contacted Dr. Yexai, rushed to Epsilon Station with a full technical team. What they found there changed everything they thought they knew about the human evacuation. There are quantum transmitters in every piece of human equipment we have examined, Yexai reported to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Communication relays, terraforming stations, mining equipment, manufacturing facilities, even simple atmospheric sensors. Everything is connected to a vast hidden network. The council chamber erupted in alarmed clicks, growls, and electronic static as representatives from 47 species realized the implications. Every major galactic civilization had become dependent on human technology. Their food production, their industrial capacity, their ability to expand to new worlds, all of it relied on systems that were apparently under remote control. How is this possible? Demanded Prime Minister Quell and I of the Zephyrian Federation. Our technicians examined every piece of equipment before it was put into service. The transmitters are integrated at the quantum level, Yexai explained. They appear to be natural components of the technology, unless you know exactly what to look for and have the right scanning equipment. The humans did not just give us their terraforming technology. They gave us a surveillance and control network that spans the entire galaxy. Chancellor Vextar felt a cold fury building in his chest. The humans had not surrendered at all. They had tricked the entire galaxy into accepting a massive espionage operation disguised as advanced technology. Every secret communication, every military installation, every government facility that used human-built equipment was potentially compromised. The efficiency reductions we have been experiencing, Vextar said slowly, they are not malfunctions. No, Chancellor. Someone is deliberately limiting the output of our systems. Someone who has complete access to every piece of human technology in galactic space. As if summoned by their realization, every communication screen in the council chambers suddenly flickered to life. The image that appeared made Vextar's mandibles click with recognition and rage. Admiral Kate Morrison looked exactly as she had 18 months earlier. Calm and confident, speaking from what appeared to be the bridge of a starship unlike any design in the galactic database. The ship's interior was clean and modern, with holographic displays showing information in scripts that no council linguist could read. Behind the Admiral, other humans moved efficiently at control stations, their faces showing the quiet confidence of people who knew they held all the winning cards. Greetings, Chancellor Vextar, and honored council members, Kate said in the same calm voice she had used during the surrender negotiations. I trust you have discovered our little insurance policy by now. The council chamber fell silent, except for the hum of the translation devices working to convert Kate's words into dozens of different languages. Every representative stared at the screens, trying to understand how this was possible. You may have noticed that your terraforming systems are operating at reduced capacity, Kate continued. This is intentional. For the past 18 months, you have grown accustomed to the abundance our technology provides. Your populations have expanded, your industries have grown, your civilizations have flourished. All of it dependent on systems we control. Vextar leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the light from the screens. What do you want, Admiral? The silence that followed Admiral Morrison's transmission lasted exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Chancellor Vextar counted every second as he stared at the blank screens, his mind racing through possibilities and implications. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. Cut all power to human-built systems immediately, he ordered. Every terraforming station, every mining facility, every communication relay, shut them all down now. Sub-Chancellor Kexmore's mandibles clicked nervously. Chancellor, that would mean complete system failure across 47 worlds. Food production would stop. Atmospheric processors would go offline. Mining operations would cease entirely. Billions of beings would be at risk. Do it, Vexstar snarled. We cannot allow the humans to hold the galaxy hostage. Within hours, emergency shutdown orders went out across galactic civilization. On Harvest Prime, Zephyrian technicians reluctantly powered down the atmospheric processors that kept their crops alive. On her heart, Cronin engineers watched helplessly as their mining equipment ground to a halt. Throughout the galaxy, the abundance that had defined the past 18 months suddenly vanished. The results were immediate and catastrophic. Without the atmospheric processors, the air on dozens of terraformed worlds began to revert to its natural state, which was poisonous to the alien colonists. Without the mining equipment, production of essential materials dropped to nothing. Without the communication relays, contact between distant colonies was lost entirely. Commander Tony Rodriguez monitored the galactic communications from the hidden human fleet's intelligence center. Banks of screens showed data streams from across the galaxy as alien civilizations struggled to deal with the sudden loss of human technology. Economic systems are collapsing, he reported to Admiral Morrison. The Cronin Empire is facing massive unemployment as their mining operations shut down. The Aquarian Collective is dealing with life support failures on 12 ocean worlds. The Zephyrians are projecting complete crop failure within 6 days. Kate studied the reports with the same calm expression she had worn throughout the crisis. Any sign they are preparing military action against us? Colonel Helen Parker looked up from the tactical station. Negative, Admiral. Their fleets are positioned defensively around their core worlds. They're not even trying to locate us. They're too busy dealing with the crisis to think about offensive operations. The reason for the aliens' restraint was simple. They had no idea where humanity was hiding, how large their hidden fleet had grown, or what other capabilities they had developed during their voluntary exile. The humans had vanished so completely from galactic space that even the most advanced sensor networks could not detect a trace of their presence. But more importantly, the aliens were beginning to understand the true scope of their dependence on human technology. It was not just a matter of convenience or efficiency. Their entire civilization had been rebuilt around systems they could not operate, repair, or replace. Without human technology, they faced a return to the slow, limited existence they had known before the human exodus. On the third day of the shutdown, Chancellor Vexstar received a communication from Prime Minister Quellenny of the Zephyrian Federation. The crystal being's normally bright inner light was dim with exhaustion and stress. Chancellor Quellenny said, "We must reconsider this course of action. My people are dying. The atmospheric processors have been offline for 72 hours, and the air quality is becoming toxic. We have perhaps another day before we must evacuate 6 billion Zephyrians from their homes." Similar calls came in from across the galaxy. The Cronin Empire reported that their industrial economy had completely collapsed. The Aquarian Collective faced the loss of their newest colonies as life support systems failed. Even the mighty hegemony was experiencing supply shortages that threatened their military readiness. Dr. Yexai worked frantically in his laboratory, trying to find a way to restart the human systems without external control. But every attempt failed. The technology was simply too advanced and too well integrated for alien engineers to understand quickly enough to save their civilizations. The humans designed these systems to be operated by anyone, he reported to Vexstar, but only maintained and controlled by them. Can use their technology, but we cannot truly own it. The breakthrough in negotiations came from an unexpected source, Dr. Quilleneth, who had worked with human scientist Lisa Chen for years, managed to establish a communication channel using quantum entanglement principles that Lisa had helped him understand. His message was simple but desperate. "We need to talk," the Zephyrian scientist transmitted into the void. "It's not as conquerors are conquered, but as beings who want to survive." The response came 12 hours later. Admiral Morrison agreed to a face-to-face meeting at a neutral location, the ancient builder's station at the galaxy's core. The station had been abandoned for thousands of years, but its systems still functioned. It was the perfect place for negotiations that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Kate Morrison arrived at the station aboard a ship that made every alien representative gasp in amazement. The vessel was sleek and powerful, incorporating design elements that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Its hull reflected light in impossible ways. Its energy signature was completely unlike anything in the galactic database. The human ship docked at the station with perfect precision, demonstrating a level of technological advancement that made it clear how much humanity had progressed during their exile. When Admiral Morrison walked into the station's central conference chamber, she was accompanied by only two advisors, Dr. Lisa Chen and Captain Ryan Burke. Chancellor Vexstar led the alien delegation, which included representatives from every major galactic civilization. The atmosphere in the chamber was tense, filled with desperation from the aliens and quiet confidence from the humans. "Your terms," Vexstar said without preamble. There was no point in pretending that the aliens were negotiating from a position of strength. Kate placed a data crystal on the conference table. The small device gleamed in the chamber's ancient lighting, containing information that would reshape the galaxy. Complete recognition of human sovereignty over any worlds we choose to inhabit or terraform, Kate said.
Oh.
No restrictions on our technological development or expansion. No interference in our internal affairs. And formal acknowledgement that humanity will serve as coordinators for all future terraforming and expansion projects. Prime Minister Quellenai leaned forward, his crystal body dimming with concern. "We're demanding control of galactic expansion. We are offering to share something you could never develop on your own," Kate corrected. "The technology you have been using for the past 18 months represents perhaps 10% of our actual capabilities. We can turn dead worlds into paradises in months instead of years. We can terraform environments suitable for any known species. We can even reverse ecological damage that you thought was permanent." She gestured toward the chamber's ancient holographic systems, which had not functioned in millennia. Suddenly, the air filled with three-dimensional images that took the aliens' breath away. Worlds with floating crystal cities designed specifically for Zephyrian physiology. Vast underground ocean networks that would make the Aquarians weep with joy. Volcanic mining complexes that could extract resources from the cores of planets without damaging their surfaces. "All of this is possible," Kate continued, "but only through cooperation, not conquest. The old way of doing things, the careful balance of power that kept everyone weak and limited, is over. You can join us in building something greater, or you can go back to your slow, restricted existence on your original worlds." Counselor Murthok of the Aquarian Collective writhed his tentacles in agitation. "And if we refuse, will you simply leave our systems offline until we starve?" Kate's expression softened slightly. "If you refuse, we will restore partial function to your existing systems, enough to maintain your current populations. But there will be no expansion, no new technologies, no growth beyond what you had before we arrived. It will be exactly where you were 200 years ago, before humans entered galactic space." The implication was clear. The aliens could choose progress and cooperation with humanity, or they could choose stagnation and isolation. There was no middle ground, no way to return to the old balance of power. Dr. Quilleneth spoke for the first time since the negotiations had begun. "What about those of us who want to work with humanity? The scientists and engineers who see the value of cooperation?" Lisa Chen smiled at her old research partner. "Individual cooperation has always been welcome. Quill, we have never had a problem with alien scientists who approached us as equals rather than subjects to be controlled." Chancellor Vexstar looked around the chamber at the other alien representatives. He could see desperation in their faces, the recognition that they had no real choice. Their civilizations would collapse without human technology, and humanity had demonstrated that they could not be forced to provide it. "How do we know you will keep your agreements?" Vexstar asked. "How do we know you will not simply demand more and more until we are your slaves?" The agreement was signed exactly 72 hours after the negotiations began. The same amount of time the hegemony had originally given humanity to surrender. Admiral Kate Morrison had insisted on the symbolic timing, and Chancellor Vextar understood the message. The galaxy had come full circle, but now humanity held all the power. Within minutes of the signing, human technology across the galaxy began functioning normally again. Atmospheric processors hummed back to life, mining. Equipment resumed operation, and communication networks reconnected distant worlds. The relief from alien civilizations was immediate and overwhelming. On Harvest Prime, Farmer Rylaneth watched his crops begin to recover as the atmospheric processors restored proper growing conditions. The Zephyrian had spent 3 sleepless days watching his plants wither as the air composition became toxic. Now, as the familiar hum of human technology filled the air, he felt hope returning. "The humans could have let us all die," he told his assistant Kelmer, as they walked through the recovering fields. "They chose not to. Perhaps this new arrangement will be better than the old ways." Similar conversations were happening across 47 worlds. Alien beings who had spent 3 days facing the collapse of their civilizations were beginning to understand that humanity had shown remarkable restraint. They could have caused mass extinctions, but they had chosen to make a point instead. Dr. Lisa Chen returned to her research. But now, as the director of the newly created Galactic Terraforming Institute, the facility was built on a space station in neutral territory, staffed by scientists from every known species who wanted to push the boundaries of what was possible. Her old friend, Quilineth, was among the first to join the institute. The Zephyrian. Scientists brought decades of experience in crystalline growth technology that complemented human terraforming methods in unexpected ways. "I always wondered what we could accomplish if we truly worked together," Quilineth said as they toured the Institute's laboratories. "Now we will find out." Lisa smiled as she showed him the advanced equipment that humanity had developed during their exile. Molecular assemblers that could build entire ecosystems from basic elements. Atmospheric generators that could create perfect conditions for any known form of life. And gravity manipulators that could reshape the very geography of planets. "This is just the beginning," Lisa said. "We have plans for technologies that will make terraforming look simple. Imagine creating artificial suns to warm frozen worlds, or building ring habitats around gas giants that could house billions of beings." Captain Ben Williams had been given command of humanity's first official deep space exploration vessel, the UHSV Discovery. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, incorporating all the advances they had made during their time in exile. Mission was to explore beyond the galactic rim, seeking new worlds and new possibilities. His crew was mixed, including humans, Zephyrians, Cronins, and even a few Aquarians who had been modified to survive in standard atmospheric conditions. It was the first truly integrated crew in galactic history, working together as equals rather than as rulers and subjects. Coordinates laid in for the Andromeda approach vector, reported navigator Amy Foster, who had been promoted after her. Service during the Exodus. "The new drive systems show we can make the journey in 6 months instead of the 5 years it would take with standard galactic technology." Ben nodded as he studied the star charts displayed on the main screen. Humanity had always been explorers at heart, and now they had the technology and the freedom to explore farther than anyone had ever imagined. "Execute," he ordered. As the stars shifted around them, Ben thought about the future. The galaxy they were leaving behind was already changing in ways that most beings could not yet comprehend. Back on Earth, which humanity had reclaimed as part of the agreement, massive construction projects were underway. The planet was being transformed into something new, a center of learning and innovation where the best minds from across the galaxy could work together. Colonel Jake Martinez, now General Martinez, supervised the construction of the new global defense grid. But unlike the old military installations, this system was designed to protect the entire solar system, including the alien researchers and diplomats who were now living and working alongside humans. "The irony is not lost on me," he told his aide, Major Carol Wright, as they watched alien and human workers building the defense platforms together. 2 years ago, we were planning to fight these people. Now we are protecting them. Carol nodded. As she reviewed the construction schedules, the general was right about fighting smart instead of fighting hard. We won a war that the enemy did not even know they were losing. The transformation was not limited to military and scientific cooperation. Throughout the galaxy, economic systems were being rebuilt around the new reality of human technological leadership. Trade routes that had been established over thousands of years were being redesigned to accommodate the rapid expansion that human terraforming made possible. On the trading station Deep Port served as a hub for commerce between dozens of systems. Alien merchants were learning to work with human corporations that offered capabilities beyond their wildest dreams. Merchant Prince Yexkal of the Hegemony Trading Guild met with human businessman Robert Chen to discuss a contract for terraforming services in the Outer Rim territories. Your people can really turn a frozen rock into a garden world in 6 months, Yexkal asked, his mandibles clicking with disbelief. Robert smiled as he displayed holographic projections of recent terraforming projects. 6 months for a basic terrestrial environment. 3 months if you just want atmospheric processors and basic soil treatment. And we can customize the environment for any species. The economic implications were staggering. Worlds that had been considered worthless because they could not support life were suddenly valuable real estate. Species that had been trapped on overcrowded homeworlds could now expand to dozens of new colonies. The entire concept of scarcity was being redefined. Admiral Kate Morrison established her new headquarters on Luna, in the same facility that had once served as humanity's primary military command center, but now the base served a different purpose, coordinating the peaceful expansion of galactic civilization. Her staff included representatives from every major species, working together to plan colonization projects, exploration missions, and research. Initiatives that would have been impossible under the old system. Status report on Project New Horizon. Kate requested during her daily briefing. Commander Alex Thompson, now serving as Deputy Director of Galactic Operations, consulted his datapad. 47 new worlds are scheduled for terraforming over the next 12 months. The Zephyrians are particularly interested in the crystal growth worlds we found in the Centauri sector. The Cronins want to establish mining operations in the asteroid belts of the Vega system. And the Aquarians are excited about the ocean worlds we discovered near the galactic rim. Kate nodded as she studied the expansion plans displayed on the main screen. In 2 years, humanity had gone from facing extinction to leading the greatest period of growth in galactic history. Any resistance to the new arrangements? Kate asked. Minimal, Thompson replied. A few hard-line factions in the hegemony still grumble about human dominance, but they cannot argue with the results. Food production is up 400% galaxy-wide. Living standards have improved dramatically for every species. And we have explored more new territory in the past year than in the previous century combined. The truth was that most alien beings had quickly adapted to the new reality. The benefits of cooperation with humanity were simply too obvious to ignore. Worlds that had struggled to support small populations were now thriving colonies. Technologies that had been theoretical possibilities were becoming everyday realities. Dr. Yexai, who had first discovered the quantum transmitters in human technology, now served as Chief Science Advisor to the Galactic Council. His job was to help alien scientists understand and work with human technology, rather than trying to control or limit it. The humans were right about one thing, he told his research team during a weekly meeting. The old way of doing things was holding everyone back. We were so afraid of rapid change that we prevented any real progress. His assistant, Trillax, looked up from the quantum mechanics textbook he was studying. Do you think they planned this from the beginning? The Exodus? The hidden transmitters? All of it? Yexi considered the question carefully. I think they planned for the possibility. Humans are remarkably good at thinking several steps ahead. But more importantly, they were willing to take risks that we never would have considered. 5 years after the signing of the new Galactic Accord, the transformation was complete. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force or intimidation. Instead, they had made themselves so valuable that no one could imagine the galaxy functioning without them. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it had evolved into something new, a cooperative organization focused on exploration, research, and peaceful expansion rather than maintaining the status quo through fear and control.